I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and Financial Juneteenth. I just woke up and still in Denver, Colorado, and I wanted to talk about the story that somebody sent me that I thought was worth talking about. It has to do with this guy by the name of Vijay Chokal-Ingam, who appears to be from India, and he wanted to he wanted to basically test the waters on affirmative action or prove some kind of point. And so what he did was VJ tried to get into the University of St. Louis, Missouri, if I'm not mistaken, or St. Louis University School of Medicine, and he basically made himself black. He changed his name from VJ to JoJo. I don't know that I didn't know that JoJo was a black name, but okay, if you want to, go with stereotypes, isn't it wasn't Casey and JoJo and Jodeci or something like that? And he shaved his head, he trimmed his eyelashes, and he used his same credentials. And also he joined the Black Student Union, and he got into medical school, and he eventually dropped out. And now VJ has spent his life, I guess, since 1998 when he applied to medical school, being an activist against affirmative action, claiming that affirmative action is some form of racism, and that him as well as hardworking white people are being just harmed and discriminated against because all these opportunities are being given to black people who now officially must run the world because we've been given just so much free stuff from the people that are dumb enough to just give things away to us. Now, VJ is going to be the author of a book called Almost Black. And he goes into detail about what he did. I think he should change his book title from Almost Black, but definitely a bigot, because not only was his action incredibly racist, but his conclusions are racist, ignorant, and fundamentally flawed. And let me explain why. VJ clearly doesn't understand history. I don't know if he's lived most of his life in India or not. India has its own history of severe discrimination against certain types of people, and it shows itself in a lot of different ways. But I think that VJ may be a victim of the ignorance that still affects many, many Americans who think that things like affirmative action are some type of reverse racism. Which Malcolm X made it clear that reverse racism is a term that was invented by whites mainly to alleviate the white man of the guilt of everything he's done to the black man, woman, and child over the last 400 years. Yeah, when you've beaten, lynched, burned, castrated, done horrible things to a group of people over hundreds of years and made them work for free, and then stole their wealth and then gave it to your children who now hold that wealth today, then you're going to feel a little bit guilty about that. You're going to feel a little bit embarrassed. You're probably going to want to hide what you did. Any criminal who goes into court or who's been given stolen goods, they probably don't want the court to review, like, where did you get that car, where did you get that house, where did you get that money in your bank account, did you get it from your father? Well, your father stole it from his father, so therefore the money needs to go back to the source of the person from whom it was taken in the first place. uh, let's lay this out real quick. America has severe economic disparities. The average white family has a wealth level that is at least 21 times and as high as 80 times higher than the average black family, depending on which measuring stick that you use. Um, these disparities do not exist because white people are just so much smarter, or because white people just work so much harder, or because white people are just so much better with money than black people, or whatever. They exist because for hundreds of years, white people stole our shit. White people did not allow black people to participate in the wealth building process in America, but yet they forced them to give literally trillions of dollars worth of free labor that was used to build this great country in which we live. And then, in many cases, when blacks did acquire some degree of wealth, whites rode along with KKK robes in the middle of the night and took the wealth from them. They made black people in the South abandon their farms and then kept the property after those people were gone. Or if they felt like you were a big property owner or that you had a lot of stuff, they might find a reason to incarcerate you so they could then take all of your possessions. We did the film recently, Resurrecting Black Wall Street, because in 1921, there was an affluent community in the Greenwood section of Tulsa, Oklahoma, an affluent black community with hardworking doctors, lawyers, and everything else, and business owners who basically, the jealous whites around them got together with guns, came into, into that community, massacred hundreds of people, incarcerated hundreds more, and made thousands of people flee their homes so they could go home by home and loot the house and burned the house to the ground, and they did it in a systematic, exterminatory fashion, house by house by house. But I bet VJ's dumbass doesn't know that because he probably hasn't studied history. He doesn't understand that the America in which we live was built on a foundation of severe discrimination. You think the Nazi Holocaust was bad? No, our Holocaust lasted for 400 years. Our Holocaust affected tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of people. Millions of families have been destroyed by the Holocaust of both slavery and mass incarceration over the last 40 years. I talked to Michelle Alexander not too long ago. We both agree that there should be reparations for the war on drugs because they were giving us 150-year sentences with no chance of parole for various forms of drug possession or doing the things that you see white kids do on college campuses every weekend. Every Friday night, they're using all kinds of drugs, but you'll never hear of very many college kids going to prison for the next 20, 30 years because he possessed some cocaine or some heroin or some PCP or whatever. Now, so here's what people like VJ don't understand, and why they can't be taken seriously in a country that is seriously trying to pursue racial healing. I don't know if America's really that country, because when you look at the statistical data, we are clearly probably the most racist industrialized nation in the world, largely because we focus so much on the human rights abuses of other countries that we can't see the human rights abuses that occur right here in our own country. Whenever we point the finger at other nations and say, look at what you're doing to your people, you're doing that to your people, your leaders are corrupt, you're doing this, all they do is they turn around, they point the finger back and say, look at what you're doing to black people. Look at what you've done to black people the last 400 years. You really think you have the moral high ground because you got the biggest military and the most money? That's the only reason people haven't really checked the United States in terms of how they've treated black people, is because we've got the biggest military. So you can't come in and invade us like we did Iraq and remove our leader for being unjust. You can't go into other countries the way or you can't go into our country the way we've gone into other nations and impose economic sanctions because you don't like the laws in that country. Nobody can really do that to us. That's why we've been able to get away with, not we, I'm talking about the government, the powers that be, namely white males, because white males have run most of this stuff when all this oppression was occurring, when black people were being lynched, when the people on Black Wall Street were being firebombed by their own government. The reason they weren't being checked was because the United States has so much military and economic power that nobody was able to check them. And yes, in the Black Wall Street incident, the government played a huge role in this. Number one, the National Guard came through and firebombed some of the homes in the black communities because the media, again, a white-controlled institution that was racially biased. This is where structural racism comes into play. They were writing the story up with an entirely false narrative. They weren't saying innocent black people being massacred by deranged white men with guns. They said the crazy Negroes out of control, brave white men are going to control the rebellion. Right? So what did they do? They allowed these white men to go in and kill black people repeatedly by deputizing them. So as a result, not one single person was ever held accountable for the murders committed on Black Wall Street. Not one single penny of that money was given back to those people in restitution. There are poor people in that community who lived to be 106 years old who fought for reparations for what their family lost. They said, my daddy was a hard-working man. My mama, my family had accumulated some wealth. We owned a hotel. We owned a bank. We had a mansion. And they came in and they looted the mansion and burned the house to the ground. They killed my father, and they didn't give us a penny back. So VJ, shove that up your butt because you're full of crap. So and the thing is, I'm not really here to talk about VJ because VJ is just clearly just another bigot that's out here that's spreading the kind of lying propaganda that has been used against black people since forever. Propaganda is a way to somehow vilify black people in such a way that makes people comfortable incarcerating black people, exterminating black people. The reason that cops never get prosecuted for killing young black men, or they rarely get prosecuted for this, is because there is a common narrative being shaped always in the media with propaganda, like what VJ's doing, that says black people are lazy, black people are thuggish, black people are violent, black people are scary. And I don't know about you, but I'm sorry, but there's nothing scarier to me than a group of people who are going to get together and bring their children to a picnic where a black man is hanging from a tree and act like that's a happy moment and take a smiling family photo. That means you're sick. That means that you literally have some kind of mental illness, that your culture is fundamentally, disgustingly off base, that you're from another planet. That's true mental illness at work right there. And that's the kind of violence our people have been exposed to. So here's the thing. To call affirmative action reverse racism is like saying that the bill collector has robbed you because he's asking you to pay the debt that you owe. I'm sorry. The United States does owe a debt. Their reparations are owed. Are reparations ever going to be paid? I don't know. But does that mean that I shouldn't ask for them? Absolutely not. I will always ask for reparations as a condition for complete racial healing. You cannot have racial healing and racial harmony in a country where you just think that it's all going to be made better by holding hands and singing "We Shall Overcome." When I'm going home and my community is completely devastated, so many black men are in prison that their children aren't being raised properly. You've got an educational system where black kids are not getting access to the education that they deserve. And you expect me to act like everything's okay just because we decide we love each other? And you have not spent 1 second educating anybody on the history of structural racism, which makes my job harder. You haven't spent 1 second at all educating people truly on the history of America, explaining clear facts like, for example, how they would sometimes punish slaves by filling their bodies up with gunpowder and blowing them up in front of their families. You don't talk about that stuff because you think that somehow by squashing the truth, squashing the narrative, is going to somehow allow us to live in some sort of false harmony, racial harmony, where my community still suffers because of things that were done in the past, and you refuse to address the past because you want to convince me that the past doesn't matter. The past matters more than the present because you can't have the present without the past. The past gives birth to the present. So to try to understand the present of America, to understand affirmative action, like Vijay coming from another country, not understanding American history, that's absolutely one of the most ignorant things a person can do. You cannot understand the present in America if you don't understand the past, because when you try to understand it, everything will confuse you. Everything will confuse you. So I'm not here to just sit here and talk about VJ all day. We know VJ's stupid. We know VJ's a bigot. We know VJ's going to make a whole lot of money from other bigots who want their racism to be confirmed by other people who are somehow deluded into believing this false narrative that's been pursued for so many years. We know what this brother's all about. I don't want to call him a brother. He's not my brother. He's some liar. But the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, we know the truth. Those of us who are enlightened, those of us who've been educated, those of us who understand why America is what it is today, we know the truth, and that's why we have to continue to fight for what is ours. That's why we have to learn how to build. That's why we have to learn how to fight back. And that's the other thing that's interesting to me too, is that we have to ask ourselves, why do we live in a country that is so racially biased that just me getting on this computer and simply making the statement that for 400 years whites stole our wealth, that's why wealth disparities exist. Just me saying that makes me a radical black man. When the truth makes you radical, that means you're dealing with a very corrupt scenario. So let's just keep that in mind. I just thought this story was interesting. Somebody sent it to me. And I appreciate you guys when you send me stuff. You can look me up on Facebook. You send me articles and stuff like that. If I get a chance to check them out, I always do. By the way, we have a new film coming out called Resurrecting Black Wall Street that I mentioned earlier. You can find out more, watch the trailer at resurrectingblackwallstreet.com. And it tells the story of Black Wall Street, but also flips the script and says, okay, in the 21st century, what can we build that will allow us to utilize the value system that led to the creation of the first Black Wall Street? Because the real story in Black Wall Street is not just what white people did to us. The real story of Black Wall Street is how black people built that thing in the first place, and why we can do it ourselves if we have the right mindset, if we become builders as opposed to borrowers. Many of us are borrowers in the society, and you ain't going to get nowhere by begging and borrowing. You only get somewhere by building. So don't beg and borrow, start building. That's all I want to say. Well, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Financial Juneteenth. Go check out our website. Until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. I am gone. Peace.